Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here with us today. This is the workshop of the Board of Regents of the Del Mar College District, convening at 10:30 this morning on Tuesday, June 11th. I am calling this meeting to order in place of our Chair, Carol Scott, who may be joining us later today. Let me call for a quorum. Dr. Babley? Here. Mr. Lowe?
Here.
Mr. Garza? Dr. Adami?
Here.
Dr. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Kroll? Here. And I'm Libby Averitt, and we do have a quorum. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Dr. Turner, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please join me in reciting the Del Mar College Vision Statement. Del Mar College will be the premier choice for life-changing educational opportunities provided by responsive, innovative faculty and staff who empower students to improve local and global communities. Thank you. Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from the official Board of Regents meetings on the college's website in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting considered as closed session by statute. Is there anybody here for general public comment? Yep, seeing none, we will move on with our workshop agenda. And we are here to talk about our next strategic plan and also our past strategic plan. And Dr. Villarreal will lead us in this discussion. Thank you.
Can you hear me now okay? Thank you. Regents, good morning. So for today's agenda, we'd like to do a brief overview of the strategic planning process, the timeline and agenda that we've gone through for the past year and a half, and then we'd like to dive into the final draft of the 2024-2029 strategic plan. The Strategic Planning Committee, let me scoot over here a bit, was made up of individuals representing each area of the college. You had faculty, you had exempt and non-exempt staff members as well. In phase two, we included an extensive listening tour. We had over 28 focus groups and 1,200 survey responses. As a board, you've been a very integral part of this journey, beginning far back as the fall of 22. So your participation and feedback has guided the faculty and staff as we've moved forward with now the structure of this new strategy for the next 5 years. In reviewing the timeline, phase one, which began in fall of 2022, believe it or not, almost 2 years ago. Since then, as a board, you have received information on the external factors that are affecting the college, new legislation passed during the 87th and 88th legislative session that are affecting us today, and also all of the feedback that we received from our faculty, staff, students, and our external stakeholders, and many of you also participated. So we are finally at the stage where the board now, you have the opportunity to review and approve the larger parts of the plan, which are going to include the mission, the vision, the guiding stars, goals, and the key performance indicators. The strategic plan focus. Now for our faculty and staff, the focus really was about professional development, ensuring that we have competitive pay, better communication internally, and the need to feel connected again, especially after going through a global pandemic. For our students, the focus was a little shifted. Although it did include communication, they also talked a lot about proper wayfinding on the campuses, along with advising, enrollment, and registration. This is where we began. We began very bold. Where do we want to begin as a college? in the next 5 years, and where do we want to go in the next 5 years? And really, at the end of the day, what does it mean to be a Viking? So the community very boldly shared ideas of where they feel the college needs to go in the next 5 years, and we listened. So I'm going to go ahead and pass out, in case you don't have a copy, the draft. Thank you, Ms. Keys. So if we can, if you could please turn to page 3 of the plan. Under page 3, you will see the definitions that we reviewed at the last board workshop, which defines each piece of the plan and really what each piece is specifically designed to accomplish. Our vision. Our vision is aspirational, right? Our hopes for the future of the college, not just the college and our surrounding community. So we want all who are part of Del Mar College to achieve their dreams. The mission, with a more structured purpose, with again very strong words. We are a college that provides, transforms, builds, and enriches lives. Del Mar College values. Each value here represents what we are prioritizing here at the college. When I say we, that's our Del Mar College Board of Regents, that's all of our faculty, our staff, and our students. Each of these values really represents and references what we see overall, the mission of why community colleges even exist. Access and equity for the community that we serve, first and foremost. Legacy and commitment that our students and faculty and staff embody, along with the courage to be innovative, resourceful, and to overcome barriers. At the end of the day, all for our student success. The goals of the plan. From these 6 goals, which these are the results that we are committed to achieving, you're going to see moving forward key performance indicators, right? The data that we're going to use, along with the strategies that are going to guide the faculty and staff as we move forward over the next 5 years. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Villarreal. I was going to ask you, do you prefer that we make comments or ask questions as we go, or would you like us to wait until the end?
As needed.
So, and I say that because I just wanted to compliment you and everybody who's worked on this on crystallizing particularly the vision statement and mission statements, because we've had a lot of discussion about that. We've wordsmithed it quite a bit in previous meetings, and my personal opinion is these 2 statements capture beautifully, I think, at least a consensus of what we discussed. And I certainly support them and don't really want to spend more time wordsmithing them or picking them apart. Not that I'm suggesting somebody here might do that, but I think they're beautiful and simple and powerful at the same time. So, but if other regents feel differently or care to comment particularly on the vision or mission statement, now might be the time to do so.
Thank you, Regent Averett.
You're welcome, Dr. Villarreal.
If you're looking at me,
I am.
My feeling is we've talked about it enough, and I don't remember if I had a problem with it or not, and that's a sign of we talked about it a lot. So
Great. Okay. That. Well, good. So we spoke now, and now we're going to forever hold our peace about that, and you can move on with the
Thank you,
goals.
Regent
Madam
Averett.
Chair,
So
can I
oh, yes,
yeah.
Dr.
Yes, sir,
Baddeley,
Dr.
of
Baddeley.
course.
Coming from a journalistic perspective, perfectly chiseled and very well stated.
Well, this is great because you're in fact actually complimenting yourselves. This came from your workshop. If you remember your workshop with Dr. Martha Ellis, where you really spent some time digging into, you did some wordsmithing with what would a newspaper article look like, right, in the future if you want to see the college. So thank you very much for this, and pat yourselves on the back. Pat. Thank you. So let's start with Guiding Star 1, which is to communicate. We want to be collaborative and communicate internally and externally about the basic needs of our students and the current and future needs of what our community needs. So this really is about that collaborative action that we prioritize moving forward for the next 5 years. Goals, what we commit to. And this is committing across the college and connecting beyond the college. So if you see here, there's the KPIs, the key performance indicators. Again, specifically, this is the data that we're going to use to measure to see if we're being successful. What you see in the end there is that will start to happen through assessment plans, through the different areas of the college, and we'll start establishing thresholds and targets later on in the summer if the board feels that these KPIs are ready to move forward. Internally, we're going to use surveys with the Del Mar College Relations team, but also we'll be using the survey from the Community College Survey of Student Engagement, otherwise known as CESI. Now, CESI is a tool that has been used for many, many years, established in 2001 through the Community College Leadership Program at the University of Texas. Our students take this assessment every other year, and we also have our faculty and staff who are also going to be taking the assessment as well. Now, if you look at the strategies under the KPIs, that is going to be specifically the actions that are going to be taken. So how will we know if we're successful with this? So we will be measuring faculty and staff satisfaction with frequency and content. We're going to be tracking the number of college-sponsored activities and tracking the amount of usage of our student resources. So our actions will include engaging leaders, improving communication, focusing on faculty and staff communication, and ensuring those pathways are consistent. Now, if you look at goal 2, that's connecting beyond the college. So that's going to be measured in the increase of events with our external partners, measuring community awareness, and trying to increase our student participation in our community-based projects in the area. We will act by prioritizing marketing that specifically focuses on enrollment and brand awareness, and bringing the community to campus to advocate on behalf of our students, our faculty, and our staff. So that's Guiding Star 1, communicate. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. Moving on to the second Guiding Star, which is elevate. So we know that higher education is really in transition right now with the new workforce needs of the state. Now with outcomes-based funding, that is a priority for the legislature and how we get funded. And we know that we as a college are going to have to work together. That's what Guiding Star Elevate is about. So under Goal 1, you're going to see large overarching key performance indicators. Now, under these 3 KPIs, there are about 25 embedded smaller KPIs, which include all of the HB8 metrics that we've talked about, and also the pathways metrics that are actually being redone right now and discussed. So just wanted to note here that these goals are more overarching than what you have seen your last board meeting. You saw the Strategic Enrollment Management Plan metrics and goals, and the strategic marketing plan. Now, Goal 1 here, data is going to include all students who complete, all students in all areas of the college. It's also going to be measuring dual enrollment students, but then we're also going to be looking at our faculty, specifically when it comes to attending trainings and e-learning, which is really big for our online learning community. If you look at Goal 2, maximizing resources entrusted to the college, we're going to measure things that are always important and of value here at the college, our student tuition and fees, and how that's comparing to our other large colleges. We're going to focus on House Bill 8 and ensure that we're doing everything that we can to get those appropriations from the state that's going to benefit us here locally. And we are also ensuring that our transition students are matriculating to credit every year. And that is the new wording that was being used when it comes to our students who have to go into developmental education before getting into credit courses. Does anybody have any questions on Guiding Star 2 Elevate?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I know we've talked about Pell Grant, and that it seemed like we had a divergence between students who should qualify and students who are receiving Pell. Are we going to track that under this and work on that?
So we currently do track that, and we've been tracking specifically since the state legislature, required FAFSA to come into the high schools, which I believe was in 22. Dr. Dominguez, do you want to respond to that?
We do track the awards that we get in the institutional profile. If you're asking specifically for how many of the current students by term, who gets awards and who doesn't, is that your question?
Well, I was just wondering, because we're kind of tracking the non-federal income streams, and I'm wondering if we need to, have the federal one up there too.
We can discuss it in committee and.
It's such a natural part of compliance because of the federal side, and I think that's why maybe there's not an absolute connection to the plan per se. But yes, let's look at that and see how that connection is made more, how we enhance that connection is what I'm reading here. It is a standalone. Again, any kind of federal compliance piece is something it's kind of preeminent. It's over everything else. So, but we have that noted, and let's see how we make sure that those two are tied together.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
And Regent Loeb, under strategies, if you look at leveraging financial support for student needs. So under each of these strategies, there are actually operational pieces that are specific day-to-day functions that the college is going to be working on. And so working with the financial aid office is going to be key for that. Thank
Okay,
you.
Great.
The last guiding star for the plan is to cultivate. So under this guiding star, we want to connect and engage with our students, our faculty, and staff at a level that will really create that inviting environment where people love to work and students love to learn. This is one of the great examples of, we feel like we do a pretty good job here. There's so many of us here that we're so passionate about our work and we love to be here, and we get a lot of feedback from our students. But we know that we can always go above and beyond and do better, and that's where we're hoping to go in the next 5 years, including our processes and our structure so that we can better serve everybody and we can again start to feel that connectivity. So goal 1 focuses solely on the cultivation of our faculty and our staff. And goal 2 is solely the focus of the student. So embedded again in these overarching KPIs are more details and data points from the strategic marketing plan and the strategic enrollment management plan that you have seen that really dig into those details and statistics on what we're measuring for our student success. So we want to work to maintain our tenured faculty. We want to communicate with our faculty and staff regarding what their perception is of the college and ensure that we're being transparent and consistent at all times. And we really want to work on increasing the amount of training that our faculty and staff are doing in terms of advising. We heard a lot from our students that advising is key, and moving forward, that's going to be one of the key elements for us with our staff and our faculty. Now, for goal 2, we are looking at an increase of enrollment. So if you remember with Guiding Star 2 and Elevate, we really focus on completion in House Bill 8. However, we know that we still need to, it's not an either or. We need to continue to focus on enrollment, recruitment, marketing, and that's where cultivating the student really comes in. Dr. Escamilla, do you have any questions? Okay. So these are the 3 guiding stars, and these are the main elements of the plan. This would be an example of what this would look like in your board agenda packet. So cultivate goal 1, nurture faculty and staff to achieve their full potential. That's how it would read. Or if we were doing the Regents report, where connecting beyond the college advocacy is a key piece to the strategic plan, and everything that you do at the local, state, and national level will be recognized and cataloged. That's what that would look like in the plan as well for your agendas. So next steps. So today I ask that you consider voting and moving forward with our mission, our vision, our values, along with the major components, which include the 3 guiding stars, the goals, the key performance indicators, and the strategies. Once this is approved, we will start aligning those thresholds and targets with the new coordinating board data, the new pathways data, and the 2 plans, the strategic enrollment management plan, the marketing plan. We also have plans to incorporate the Del Mar College Foundation plan and the technology plan as well. So if approved today, we would ask to launch the draft and to celebrate during fall convocation in August when everybody is back. And this really, what this does is it positions us to get kick-started in August and start the next 5 years.
Dr. Villarreal, will you, I understand that you're asking us to approve this draft today, along with the mission and vision statement, which is fine. Will you be bringing back to us the specific thresholds and targets for approval as well?
So what has happened in the past is the board approves the higher pieces, level pieces, and then staff day-to-day comes in with the thresholds and targets later.
Okay.
And so for the 1924 plan, that's what happened. The larger pieces were approved and staff came back later to present those, but not necessarily for vote.
For approval.
Dr.
And
Escamilla.
that's why we've brought it back in segments, as you've experienced, just like we're going to do right after this. It's in 5, we're going to talk about goals 5 and 6 and the substances and so forth. The other opportunity, so we come back periodically throughout the year with the components of the plan. Now, probably to kick this plan off, we'll go over the whole thing at one point to kind of give, a big overview of the whole thing. Keep in mind, always, the opportunity is as we move ahead. The plan is exactly. The organic nature of it is what we've got to remember, and that this is just paper, and that we do pivot and we do change along the way. Always have that opportunity to where, things happen. COVID happened. We had to shift. Legislative changes happened. We had to shift and the like, and so forth and so on. Consider it a leaping off point. And again, I love the word organic, Chair Averett, and so as such, I think we follow that order. Again, we'll oversee it all.
And I certainly trust you all to set those targets. And my thought process was more that I thought you might even be too aggressive, and wanted to share, perhaps from our perspective, wanting to make sure that we obviously try to be aspirational but also successful. So it is true, it is just a piece of paper. If we feel really strongly about something being off, we won't be shy about letting you know, and perhaps we can adjust.
Sure, or entirely new concepts, as things come up. You just don't know what inventions come about. I mean, there's things with AI right now that are gonna creep in. They're already in there. Mm-hmm. The DNA is in there, and sure. Those things may morph quickly, and you may call, and we may have to adjust as such. There's an example.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Dr. Bobley, I'm sorry.
I'm so glad that Dr. Escamilla has addressed that, because it's so fundamental to the nature of a strategic plan is its ability to be flexible, adaptive, in the sense that we have the goals and they're all set. Okay, I'm looking at changes or things that can be incorporated, added as we develop this. Okay, there are strategies to increase enrollment, looking beyond some of the things that some of our academic programs need to do is connect with ethnic communities that have allegiances abroad, study abroad, globalization, bringing international students enrollment. We have plenty of visioning that can be done in goal 2, in the student-centered aspect of it. So linking academics, I'm so glad Mark was mentioning. I was worried that are we going to be set in stone and cannot be moving out of it? And I'm so glad to hear that aspect of, maybe we should incorporate what you just said, Dr. Escamilla, into our draft somewhere, that this is a flexible plan and we are open to incorporate the latest changes in technology, demographics, geopolitical aspects. Something needs to be embedded in that document. I'm just thinking, maybe
To
there's a way to
acknowledge
craft
that.
it.
It's right here.
Oh, it
it's-
is?
Well, no, the place for it is right here. Let me go back. I was reviewing the letter, my document. I think there's where you would embed something like that. To kind of
right.
state the overarching
Yeah.
ethos of the approach. And so if it's not in there, I think that could easily be done. Because typically we do those kinds of things. I'm sorry to reread this, but
And thank you. That
would be the place
That
to
was
do
a
it.
request
Yeah.
from Dr. Escamilla and Ms. Keys at the beginning, that this plan really needed to be flexible. If we've learned anything in the past few years, right, is things can change within a day or a few months.
Yeah.
And so the way this plan is written, a lot of the meat is in the operations of the day-to-day that's already happening with the different strategic plans at the college, and then several work groups that have actually come from the strategic planning process. So some of this work operationally is already being done, and so we will have that ability to pivot and be flexible. That's key to this plan.
Yep.
So thank you. We will definitely add that.
Jeff and I will work on that cover letter together to make sure that the flexibility, the organic nature of the planning, let's use that word probably, and embed that in my statement.
Excellent. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
It was there in spirit, I promise you, it just wasn't there in ink.
Yeah, that's,
It was
yeah.
not there in ink.
Thank you for that feedback, Dr. Bobley.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions?
No other questions or comments? With that, then, I will ask if there is a motion to accept the core plan of the 2024-2029 strategic plan charting the Viking Way
I make
as
the
presented.
motion. Second.
Dr. Babley makes the motion. Mr. Loeb seconds. Is there any public comment on the matter? Seeing none, everybody who votes yes, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Villarreal, for all your hard work, for everybody who was
Yep.
involved in this process. We know it's been a long
Right.
undertaking.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
with that, we will move to the second item of business because we got to wrap up the 2024 strategic plan. So let's hear the update on that.
So out of the 20, let me make sure I get my, my timeline right. 2019-24 strategic plan. The last two goals that we were reporting on are goals 5 and 6. So under goal 5, this plan focused on the external piece of the college, right? What we're doing with workforce, with our community and educational agencies, and then the advocacy that our faculty, staff, and our Board of Regents do at the local, state, national level. So one of the key performance indicators to make sure that we were moving forward within the workforce was graduation job placement. So this KPI specifically focuses on our credit students and whether or not they had been working or enrolled within 1 year of completing their degree or certificate, again, within credit programs. As you can see, we hit the threshold pretty early on with this KPI. We're right now at the 2022 data from the Texas Coordinating Board. They are 2 years behind. And so this is what we would call, again, a lagging indicator. And moving forward, we're really trying to focus on having both leading indicators that are that we can see currently, but we do have to use these at certain times to show where we've been and where we're headed. So right now, we can focus on 2022. When it comes to licensure and certification pass rates, our students have always done remarkably well. Again, we met the threshold pretty quickly. In 2022, over 89% of our students had passed their certification and licensure exams. And so we are going to continue to focus on that as well, especially with House Bill 8 and looking at that target. So that's one of the thresholds and targets that we will be measuring again. When it came to Goal 6, this area really focused our financial effectiveness and our affordability. And again, we talked about from the last plan that was just passed about how important it is to focus on our students and the tuition and fees that they pay. And so for the last plan, we really focused on maintaining our average tuition and fees with other large colleges. And so again, as of right now, we do have the 2022 data for our large colleges and all community colleges. We have our fall 23 internally, and so we will be continuing to monitor that under Guiding Star 3, under Guiding Star 2 under Elevate as we move forward. So you will continue to see this KPI. But as of 2022, we stayed pretty much in line with the other colleges when it came to tuition and fees. And that's our semester credit hours. This came from our Del Mar College Foundation office. The number of students who've been awarded scholarships through the foundation and how much was awarded. So you can see that the foundation continues to work towards that higher goal, over $2.2 million that were awarded. You'll see that the amount of students who received was 1,156 in 2023. These are new numbers. There's still a few that are coming in, but what you're seeing is a shift in the strategy of the foundation, where they're focusing on giving more money, the highest award amount that they can give to specific students so that they can really move the needle and get to completion.
I'd just like to add that I've recently attended the annual board meeting of the Del Mar College Foundation and other meetings along the way, especially now with the change in leadership due to Mary McQueen's retirement and so forth, and now with Mr. Matt Busby coming on board. That number is no small matter. I remember back in the days where it was a few 100,000, I mean, relatively speaking, of awards. 2.2 million. There's not, I don't think there are any comparables in the area. And I'll just leave it at that without being too descriptive from educational entities. And for specifics. This is incredible work. Sorry, did I go outside the print? Why are you laughing?
I'm sorry. Please continue.
I'm just kidding. Wake up, everybody out there. We're trying to have fun. So anyway, this is a celebratory moment. This is a celebratory moment. $2.2 million is a big deal. This is not the amount of money generated. This is the amount of money awarded.
Right.
Incredible things. Now, in all due disclosure and candor, I've got to add just one quick thing. The 1,156 number is up for debate, theoretically, philosophically rather, as opposed to the 1,600, giving fewer, more or less. You see what I'm saying? I see a little bit of a wince there, and there's their eyebrows raising too, Dr. Bubbly.
Yeah, I had a comment on that.
So this is being discussed. And we have some great leadership at the foundation, and strategies have always been tested along the way with the foundation. And I have made some big faux pas, some strategic faux pas with the foundation over the years that we course corrected and figured things out. This is being discussed, and this may or may not be
changed in the future. So I'm reading your body language, and I'm watching y'all's reaction to these numbers and so forth. Great that on the top number, on the bottom number, there's concern. I see that. Yes, Mr. Kroll.
Well, actually, I'm going to recognize Dr. Turner. She had her light on for a while.
My apologies.
That's okay.
No, you're fine. So one of the comments I've made previously is there's a disconnect between high school counselors and Del Mar, and wondering if that's part of the reason why there's a low number. Is there a big push for Del Mar to connect with those seniors? I know they have to do the FAFSA and so forth, but I know that talking with seniors at Flower Bluff, they did not know to start applying through the foundation and putting in that application. So, because they only need to put in one application and then they try to match. A lot of seniors don't know about that. Sure. So I just wondered if there's a way we can push it out a little bit more to the seniors in our local areas so they know
Sure.
to fill out those applications to see if there's any award money for them to help them through scholarships.
So some clarification, that's not the amount of students who actually have a record amount of students who apply.
Okay.
And it's for our students once they're here at the college. That's the amount of students who are receiving. So there actually are a high numbers of students who are applying.
Okay.
So
Yes.
again,
I would be interested to know how many people are actually applying and who's receiving.
it's in the thousands, and I will get you that number. The thing is the parameters and the requirements for eligibility has been tightened. Okay, and that's the question that I have as well. Again, I'm working with the board of trustees and Mr. Busby to hammer those details out.
And that will be part of the current plan, Dr. Turner, is matching that, the foundation strategic plan and these numbers with the overall vision of the college.
Mr. Kroll?
Well,
Okay.
I'm involved with a couple other higher education in this, and in talking to them, this is the trend, is to provide larger amounts of assistance to a smaller number of, make a bigger impact on one student versus a smaller impact on 3 or 4 students. And so that's a trend. I think it's a good trend too, because you pick out the best and the brightest and help them along.
It depends on the nature of the organization, and although I agree that I frankly disagreed with the foundation on this, and so when there's a balance there. There is a balance because there is merit and then there's need, and then we get that. And then what are we here for? And what is the most utilitarian with these dollars being brought on? And then you balance that with what the expectations of the donors are, and so forth. It becomes there's Mr. Busby. There you go. I've been singing and dancing till you got here, Matthew. We're talking about you, Matthew. But it just depends on the nature of the organization. Yes, it was a philosophical approach that when I was approached by the foundation and the then Vice President McQueen about this, I said, well, let's try it. Yes, it's a trend. Yes, it's an approach. And yes, and there's some outcomes that need to be associated and correlated with these kinds of things. At the same time, we have to balance the nature of our own institution as an open door institution, as an institution of need and great need at that. Matthew, we're talking about that last column.
Right.
And the numbers and so forth. I think I've briefed them enough, but if you want to just jump in there and but this is
Before you
important.
do, let me ask a quick question that you can answer, and that might help the discussion as well. Does the foundation, do we track, of the students who receive scholarships, do we track how many complete?
Okay, that's a great question.
Because if the strategy, in fact, I don't know enough to know whether this is a good strategy or not, but if indeed by giving more to fewer students means a higher percentage of students complete, then I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah, no, great question. Apologies for running late.
It's okay.
I was actually with our president of the foundation board, and we were talking about some very similar things. So,
Okay.
Great question. So A couple of things to note. You know, we've had record number of applications, right? And when we look at that, we do our best to help as many students and award as much money. But what you're looking at in the last couple of years, the foundation board took a pilot approach. And apologies if I'm repeating something already met. They met with staff at the college, and they took a different approach with a certain segment of funds, which in effect helped fewer students, giving them more money, with the ultimate goal of seeing them complete their classes and graduate their course completion with their certificate or degree at a more successful rate. So instead of 3 students get $1,000 each, the foundation board said with our discretionary funds, we would help 1 student get $3,000. And so the way that we're doing this is, we'll change a little bit. We've helped a fewer students with more funds, all right? Now that was a pilot program. Some foundation board members said, let's see how it goes. And some said, you know, I really don't like this, right? And so that's where, right now, what we're coming back to the foundation board is with some data. So we're partnering up with Sue Shield and the research team and said, let's look at the data. Let's see if these made a difference. Overall, though, we did a data analysis of our current students who had gotten scholarships for 3 years. And what we do know, per Del Mar College data, is that scholarships from the foundation make a 24% difference in terms of course completion. A student who's getting a foundation scholarship is going to be more successful at Del Mar College within their classes and their degree programs when they get private funding over a student who only gets FAFSA, Pell Grant, right? Or over a student certainly who gets no financial aid. So we know it makes a double-digit percentage increase in their success rates. We're measuring that, right? In terms of whether this, certainly the foundation board, they said this is not what we want to keep. We want to keep helping more and more students, but we also want to make that support very meaningful. And so in my conversation with donors, and not to overemphasize, would be is a little bit to a lot or a lot to a little. I think the best thing that we're aiming for is a lot to a lot, right? And so we're making progress, but we don't have perfect answers yet. All I can say is this next academic year, the foundation board is actively re-evaluating this decision to help fewer with more. Does that help?
Yeah, and let me just emphasize that last piece. Through, they're linking up they're keying their strategic plan. Remember, they're a separate 501c3, right? They're linking their strategic plan with our strategic plan that we just adopted today. And so they're going to go listen to this. They're going to hear all of this. They're going to see all of this. And they're going to develop a foundation strategic plan to be facilitated by an expert and so forth and so on. And so the process is happening. And these conversations are so important for us.
Mr. Kelly, would you like to?
Yeah, I was wondering, to what extent is the increased cost per student, the tuition increases we've approved, affect the decision of the foundation? Are we giving more money to students because it's now, or to fewer students because it's now more expensive for the student to attend the college?
Not necessarily. So, most community colleges in the state have been stuck on this sort of $1,000 for an academic year to students, right? And that's kind of going back to a few decades. And so maybe 1980s, $1,000 really did a big thing. Well, today's world, the true cost of attending Del Mar College is not just tuition fees, books, and supplies. That alone is significant for our students. But the true cost is childcare, is quitting one of those 3 jobs, right? So you can actually go to class. So with the foundation board, when we present them not just the tuition fees, books, and supplies, but also the true cost of our average student who has children and is working multiple jobs, how can we create a meaningful scholarship so they can go from part-time to full-time to actually graduate and not take an extended duration of time? So we're really trying to address how do we help those students succeed, and succeed means pass their course and graduate their program, all the while wanting to help more students. So it's kind of, sometimes it can be a challenge, but the foundation board hasn't looked at the cost of increase in tuition and fees. We're looking at a bigger picture of what is the true cost, both at Del Mar bill and then the non-Del Mar bill.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
Regent Kelly?
Dr. Turner and then Mr. Garza.
So my concern is for the students that don't qualify for a Pell Grant and FAFSA, and is there any financial support for those students to get them in the door and help keep them in the door when they're having to pay cash along the way?
Short
So-
answer is yes.
Okay,
Regent
so those are
Turner.
the kids that I'm concerned about.
So the foundation board there are people in this community just like you guys with an incredible heart, right? They all personally give. 100% of our board makes a gift that comes from their bank account in addition to partnerships with others. They have incredible passion for doing what you're talking about. And so the short answer is yes. Because we're a separate, Dr. Escamilla mentioned 501c3, the foundation board they're a board, right? They manage our policies and how we operate. And so we do award scholarships that are tied to need. So a donor says, and the board says, okay, if they determine financial need, we tie that to whether they did the FAFSA and determine whether they had the need. But we don't make that a requirement, right? So the donor does. So I'd say we have a good amount of scholarships that the donor says, I don't care, all right? You just give it to a student, from Portland High School, right, who's majoring in welding or drama or petrochemical, industrial engineering, whatever, right? And then we go from there. So the short answer is yes. Emergency aid, we don't look at financial need. We no longer even look at GPA. And that's not a secret. So I want our students to know it. That's why I know that. I'm sure a lot of students are watching this right now, and so we want them to know about emergency aid. And I know some of you guys are familiar with that program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Garza.
Yeah, I'm always in awe at the number of dollars that the foundation has given out and helped the students. And I think that for me, still for 500 students to lose some kind of assistance, I think is somewhat sad. And it's certainly going to affect their experience in trying to achieve their goals at Del Mar. But I think everything's going to, I want to say, direction and strategy can be either validated by the data that they put out. If the percentage of students that we're helping completion rate increases, then that's money well invested because you're doing the things that we're setting out to do. But I think, again, when the data comes in, you really got to look at it again and make sure that they're on the right track. And I know that the foundation appreciate all their efforts and all the work they do. They work independently, and again, whatever they do is going to be more than what's been done in previous decades. But I still worry about those students that are left out. Thank you.
Mr. Loeb.
I didn't wince, so I do want to take the opportunity to say that I don't think we as a board can put it on the foundation alone to do this. I think we need to work on our partnerships. There are other institutions that give scholarships, and we need to make sure that we as a college aren't just sending people to the foundation, but we're sending people, we keep track of who's giving scholarships. If they want to use the foundation to raise money for their scholarship, great. If they don't, we still need to be sending our students that way. I also think it's incredibly important for us to develop a culture where the business community treats education as a employee what's the word? Benefit, just like health insurance, and that we should honor and recognize our business partners who are doing that already in an effort to get others to do it as well. It is, to me, it should be a standard practice in this community that if, somebody's working for you and they want to better themselves through education, that you pay it, considering how inexpensive our tuition is for that sort of thing. And so I think we as a board have that responsibility to work on that piece. I just want to point out, I'm interested in seeing the completion data difference on these numbers, but I do want to point out that if people are completing faster, that number is going to go down no matter what, because you could spread it out under where a lot of people are taking a long time, or if you're giving it in large amounts, they will complete faster if it is an affordability issue. So that's my comment on it. And I think we're probably going to talk about that a little bit on board eval. That was one of our subjects, but it's something I hope we can, now that we've done the strategic plan, I hope we can engage a little bit more on, because I think that's what we were talking about when we were talking about this piece.
Thank you. Really very good discussion. And Mr. Busby, please pass along to the Foundation Board certainly our appreciation for their volunteer service as well. We are, I think, very proud and grateful to partner with the Foundation and for your efforts as well. I was pleased to hear you say that all of the Foundation Board members are donors, and I would encourage my fellow board members and regents, if you don't support the foundation at whatever level is comfortable for you, to please do so, because I think it would be a really powerful story to be able to tell other potential donors that you have 100% participation from not only your foundation board, but your board of regents as well.
Thank you for that feedback. And Regent Loeb, those innovative conversations are happening with employers that funnels through our corporate services and our continuing education partners. So there's some great work happening there right now. This is a multifaceted approach here at the college, from our student financial aid services, filling out the FAFSA, our students who are Pell eligible. Remember, 70% of our students are Pell eligible. That doesn't mean that they all take advantage of the Pell Grant. And so in collaboration with those new processes that we're working on, and then the new foundation strategic plan, you'll hear more about this in the future. In fact, Mr. Busby and I talked about completion numbers this morning, and so we're hoping to really start looking at that as well. Thank you. Moving forward regarding the college's financial capacity. So these next few key performance indicators revolve around this first one, the Composite Financial Index. So this is really doing is at the state level, they're wanting to make sure is their financial health at the college. And so there are many metrics used in this analysis. Over the years, the business office and the Del Mar College administration has really focused on ensuring the health and the wealth of our college for the help of our students and our faculty and our staff members. So as you can see here, with our return on net position ratios, we always meet the state standard above and beyond. In fact, we exceed. Same with the operating margin ratio and the primary reserve ratio. Those thresholds, again, we set through the state numbers, and the college has been able to stay above that pretty easily. And so kudos to the business office for always working hard, and Dr. Escamilla to ensure that we are financially stable. And then again, with the viability ratio, as you can see, we continue to go above and beyond. Now, we do have the 2023 numbers for this data set because of the business office. However, we don't have it from the state right now because we're still waiting on that from the coordinating board. But overall, these KPIs really showed the strength of our financial capacity and how we compare at the state level.
Dr. Villarreal?
Yes, sir.
It just, backing up to some of these slides, it seems like will you back up a slide or two?
Yes, sir.
It just seems like the state standard is, like on the primary reserve ratio, the state standard is 0.14 and we're at 0.4. It seems like those state standards are fairly low. Just a comment, I mean.
I was going to ask Mr. Garcia, can you speak to the nature of that threshold of 0.420 or 0.42, excuse me?
Of course, Mr. President. So you're right. The state has certain standards that in certain circumstances are pretty low. So in this particular case, what you have is a 4-year history. So we can also look at ourselves as how well we're performing over that 4-year history. And so as you can see, the primary reserve has been relatively stable during this period. As you recall, during this period, we've also been faced with downward pressures in our revenue driven by the pandemic, and yet here we are today in 2023 with a 0.4, still way above the low standard of the state.
Yeah.
But when we look at ourselves historically, we've been relatively stable under some very difficult situations over the years.
And as an example, and I hate to pick on anybody else, but I know there are institutions that aren't performing at this level, and so the standard is as low as it may seem, relatively speaking. It is set with some extreme tolerances that are even then still not met in other cases. I think we ought to celebrate what we have and probably move
Well,
on.
that was kind of my point is that in all of these KPIs were well above the state standards, and that should be kudos to the staff that we're maintaining those high standards.
Yeah, your words are very kind, but essentially it's really a collaborative effort. It's the board that approves the budget, a team that tries to execute it as best as possible under some very difficult circumstances. So thank you.
Thank you, Regent Kroll. And for moving forward with the plan that was just adopted, we've decided to change the KPIs for that, for making sure that we're focusing always on our students. So we, going back, we discussed continuing to look at student tuition and fees, the matriculation of our students in high demand fields, and our transition students matriculating to credit. So those are all the things that we're ensuring that financially moving forward that we're actually going to be looking at over the next few years. Although these are extremely important numbers, we've decided to change the way we look at our financial stability strategically. So, thank you. So this is the last few goals that you will see from this current strategic plan. In August, the plan will officially close, and we will do a review, things that we've learned, right? Things that we did well over the past 5 years, and things that we are going to continue measuring and needing to improve on. And then we'll be kicking off Charting the Viking Way. So thank you so much for your time today. Any more questions?
Seeing none, thank you so much, Dr. Villarreal, for your leadership on this, and to everybody across the institution who had a hand in this. It obviously is something that we keep top of mind every year, every board meeting, and you've taken a lot of viewpoints, a lot of information, and distilled it really well, and then kept us up to date and accountable. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. We have an amazing faculty and staff.
We do,
So thank you.
absolutely. You'll get no argument from us on that. So as we continue our workshop, we are going to go into closed session, and I would suggest that it looks like lunch is about ready, so we can take a brief break, grab lunch, go into closed session. That sounds good. We'll do our business in there and then come back out and close the workshop. I will, yeah. So I just wanted to tell you the sequence of events. And with that, I am going to read the closed session language so we can then adjourn into closed section. We are going into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 in consultation with legal counsel regarding pending or contemplated litigation or legal claims or a settlement offer with possible discussion and action in open session, and the seeking of legal advice from counsel on pending or contemplated legal matters or claims with possible discussion and action in open session, and in accordance with Texas Government Code 551.074A1, personnel matters regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including A, president's evaluation, and B, board self-evaluation, with possible discussion and action in open session. And with that, we will grab lunch and move into closed session. I'm sorry, thank you, 11:29, according to council. Thank you. We are back in session for this morning's workshop, and we do have a quorum present coming. Excuse me, we're back in session after the closed session. Oh, I get to use the gavel. Oh. I'm feeling very powerful now. We are back in session at 12:51, following our closed session where there is no action coming out of closed session. We do have a quorum present, and basically we are back in session to adjourn our workshop meeting, and we will be back in session at 1 o'clock, just a few minutes for our regular board meeting, and with that, we are adjourned for the workshop. Thank you.